miss you over here.
I always wanted to do that. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Tuesday, November 14th Town Council meeting. Boy, it's a full house. I love to see this. Thank you for coming. Item number one is going to be the prayer by the Reverend Robert Dewey, and then we're going to follow it with the pledge by Councilmember Jim Owens. Please stand.
As a point of personal privilege to the mayor-elect, I had the opportunity of baptizing your daughter 30 years ago. So it's nice to be back. And so for all of you that have served, let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the town that we live in and the opportunity of having this town that you have put aside as a sacred place. We ask your special blessing upon those who have served and will continue to serve, and those who will be stepping forward. Be with our mayor-elect and all the council that will serve. Fill them with your special grace, your Holy Spirit. Hold them up when they get weak. Through the power of your angels, hold them up on your eagle's wings. And again, we just offer this time to you and the swearing in. In your holy and blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Click. Compliance, right?
Yes. You want me to put her on the record?
Yeah, sure. Item number three is the compliance with the Freedom of Information Act. Mr. Attorney, are we in compliance?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, we're in compliance.
Thank you very much. Item number four is the approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion in this section. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Item number five is public hearings, awards, and presentations. 5A is the administration of oath for Mayor-elect Will Haney.
And I'd be happy to introduce it, Mayor Pro Tem. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored this evening to be joined by South Carolina Supreme Court Justice George James Jr. Mayor-elect Haney, if you will come out front, and Justice James, would you administer the oath of office to Mayor-elect Haney, please?
Place your left hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of this state
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
As mayor of the town of Mount Pleasant,
As mayor of the town of Mount Pleasant,
I will equally, fairly, and impartially,
I will equally, fairly, and impartially,
to the best of my ability and skill,
to the best of my ability and skill,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
and I will use my best endeavors
and I will use my best endeavors
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to law,
according to law,
the purposes for which I have been elected.
the purposes for which I have been elected.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Council members-elect Whitley, Landing, and O'Rourke, will you please come forward? And when ready, sir, Mayor Haney, would you administer the oath of office?
What about me? I don't get it.
And Santos. You're right, sorry.
He thought I was still the mayor.
Come on, Gary. Is everybody ready? Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will do to the best of my ability discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. As a council member of the town of Mount Pleasant, I will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me, and I will use my best endeavors to preserve the peace and carry into effect, according to law, the purposes for which I have been elected. So help me God. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will have a 10-minute recess.
Congratulations, sir. I had to take a selfie. Yeah. Still wrap the gavel, huh?
Carrier? All right, buddy. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you.
Keep it straight, all right?
All right, Ryan. Okay. How are you? I saw you sitting in the back over there, so you doing well? Yeah? No kidding. No, I don't know that. Yeah. We'll say an extra extra prayer for him. It's great to see you. Nice to see you too. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't hit it on the other version. It's Tom. Again, you're going to call me on the phone, right? I'm going to be Eric Slater. That's right. I'm good. Now, Joe and I can laugh and pick on people. And so, I'm the worst. If you say something, I'll start laughing. I can't stop. I'll be laughing for 15 minutes. I'm not doing it. Hey, good. All right, man. Good. I'll see you. All right.
He's telling my recommendation.
Yeah, I know. It's awful. I know. Yeah. Stop telling them all.
I spoke with him, I don't know.
I know.
That meeting.
All season. Pretty sure. All right. It's good to see you.
He did,
Oh, well, you know what? I know we're approaching Thanksgiving, but if you have time available, I'll give you a call. I'll take you through the PD, and yeah, it'll be cool. Let me know. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect, yeah. And wait till the park is done out front. And the grass goes in, and the landscaping, it'll be, and then we're building a double gym in the back. So you'll see that too. It's only money, right? Thank you. That's true.
I'm sorry, I was in a meeting this afternoon. Oh, yeah. I was like, man, I didn't get any messages today. How you doing? Good?
Meanwhile, I'm re-upping. I took over. I'm done in January. I think I'll be.
Wearing how? You see, I know you like reservations, so you should do stuff. I know, Larry. Many faces of Larry.
Except I have Valentine's Day.
John Wright is here.
Over under tonight, after, I'll put a 2 hour.
We're on 2.5. I'm usually right.
So how do people eat?
They don't. They snack before.
I ate breakfast at 6 o'clock this morning. And this lunch. And I didn't have my own time.
That's kind of weird. That's not good. What about some, this guy?
Granola is messy.
Why don't you bring over fruit plate next time?
My husband's name's Michael Barrett, but his mother's name is Hal, Ruth Hal.
Okay.
Terry was her aunt. Terry Hal, is that her name? He's moved. This is the mayor's room.
Nice to see y'all.
I don't even know how that happened, but it happened. That's good. Thanks a lot. Congratulations to you. We've got. Today we're going on annexation. It's like, wow. It'll work. Well, I think how these things go right now. This is great.
I think you're here. Yeah.
Good idea.
That's me. All right. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get? Oh, I'm ready to hold your
chair.
We all in our places with bright, shiny faces.
Oh, well, almost.
Testing, testing.
They both work for me. We have the places, the smiling faces is yet to be determined, right?
That's true.
Hey. We should. Christine might.
So no kibitzing around, huh?
I don't think so.
That's true. That's true. And
All right. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes. Okay.
so we have
All right.
Joe and Kathy and
That's right.
Joe and Kathy.
The two Joes in her life. That's right. That's good.
All right, 10-minute recess.
Okay, well, I'll meet you over there.
Bye. See you. Thank you. Yeah. We're coming with you right now. What are you talking about?
They're really great years. They are. The kids are so much fun. They go bike around the neighborhood. They play with the dog. They are creative with things.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yes, after the public hearing. Yep. Okay, yep.
God in the world. You're live.
All right.
Thank
Next
you.
to the attorney. Oh, got me next to the attorney.
Gary.
Jim, you were in my old seat now, so. He's next to Tom.
Where am I? Is that me?
I could hit myself when I was forgetting Gary.
Wait a second, now what did I do with mine? I must have left mine on yours, did
thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, hello. Not used to being down here. Joe, you finding your accommodations okay?
That'd be mine.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was looking for it.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. I know, exactly. We can pass.
We weren't gonna let you go. We weren't gonna let you go.
Jim, you want to see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
A good laugh out of it, so what the
In the ribs.
Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We will reconvene the Tuesday, November 14th meeting of the Mount Pleasant Town Council. Thank you, everyone. You can party later, too, but we have business to do, and we will do that. The party never ends. Where we are on the agenda is the election of the mayor pro tem.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I
Mr. Ellis.
enjoyed saying that.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Gary Santos for mayor pro tem.
We have a motion to nominate Gary Santos. Is there a second? Second. We have a second. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, we will go ahead and call a voice vote. Vote in the affirmative, vote aye to make to continue Mr. Santos as our mayor pro tem. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And welcome, Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor
sir.
pro tem.
Thank you, sir.
are elected. Item E on the agenda is a public hearing to receive input on a petition for annexation of a property.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This will be led by our planning director, Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an advertised public hearing to receive input on an annexation petition for property known as Royal Palms It's an existing townhome development developed under county standards on Dingle Road. The property consists of 72 townhouse lots and other common area and the street. All town services would be provided to the residents and citizens after final reading of the annexation. And the petition requests an associated rezoning, and that is also on your, later on your agenda this evening for TH townhouse zoning. And the property is located and shown here with the individual lots indicated. And I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, to conduct the public hearing.
Thank you very much. This public hearing is open. Are there any comments from any members of the public who would like to comment on this issue?
That's a pond. Yeah.
Yes, sir. You know the drill. State your name and address, please, sir.
Good evening and congratulations to everyone. My name is George Freeman, 1450 Bowman Road. I am a former member of the Highway 17 Corridor Task Force, a former vice chair of Charleston County Planning Commission, and current member of CAGE. If we are serious about traffic congestion in this area, annexation of this property should not occur unless the undeveloped open space land is placed into a conservation easement and the connection to Crystal Road be dedicated as a public right-of-way. The dedication of the right-of-way provides for future access to Billy Swales Boulevard. This project contributes to the congestion at Highway 17 and Highway 41. We have 72 homes with only one ingress and egress. The creation of the Sweetgrass Overlay District was to prevent developments of this type along Highway 17. The Royal Palm subdivision should remain in the Sweetgrass Overlay. It was in the overlay in the county as a non-conformant, and it should remain in the overlay as a non-conformant in the town of Mount Pleasant. The connection to Crystal Road was part of the agreement with the county, and it should be an agreement with the town of Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any other members of the public who would like to comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to point out that unfortunately, I think it's just, it was overlooked. George, I agree with you. It should have been on the agenda that they are asking to be exempt from the Sweetgrass Basket Overlay District. That will be on the second reading. It will be on there, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
One comment. This is not on the project, but for those of you who don't know, the gentleman who just presented this item to us is Jeffrey Olma, our new Planning and Development Director here in Mount Pleasant. This is his first town council meeting presenting. So welcome to the town, and thank you for being here tonight.
Welcome. Good to have you. No, yes.
Yeah, Pat Sullivan, 1002 Plantation Court. The Sweetgrass Basket Overlay District the plan was a combination of Charleston County, the the town of Mount Pleasant, and the residents of the Sweetgrass Overlay District. They all worked together. They all came to the same decision on what the geographic area should encompass. So I wish we would start honoring this geographic area and quit changing it. We need to leave it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Congratulations to all new council members and the old council members and the new mayor. Just on that picture, when you look at the end, it doesn't look like there's any turnaround for a fire truck. And these are the type of things that often get overlooked until something happens. I don't know if the connection that Mr. Freeman was discussing could address that, but I believe it could. If you can get the fire truck in, you can also get it out. We don't have I'm going to get into it at public comments further, but we need the ability to get these fire trucks back in service when they're in service, because we don't have any backup plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for this public hearing? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of of council.
Good evening.
My name's Frank Clarkin. I'm here as a director of the Royal Palms Property Owners Association. And thank you for letting the public speak. And to show my appreciation, I'm going to be uncharacteristically brief. We've worked with the town for a number of months now on the process for becoming annexed into the town. We followed the step-by-step process to the best of our abilities. All of the owners, to the best of my knowledge, are in favor of this annexation, and I'm simply here to ask for your favorable consideration under this petition.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Hey, Frank.
Hey.
You said to the best of your knowledge. This is where my sticking point was bringing people into the town who don't want to come into the town. I understand they want to do the 75% method, and historically I've always been against that because I feel like, you know, if somebody owns a piece of property, they're paying their taxes, they should remain there if they want to. If not, I don't think they should be forced into. So my question is, did they contact everybody? Did everybody have an opportunity to say whether they want to come in or whether they don't want to come in? I'm hearing that they maybe people reached out, but they didn't hear anything back. I mean, somebody could be out of the country, or so. That's my question: is the people who you didn't hear back from, were they contacted? How were they contacted? And will they be contacted again? Because I have an issue with that. I like all of the rest of it, but that one issue of forcing somebody to come into the town who doesn't want to come into the town just kind of bothers me.
They have been given ample opportunity to express opposition. To the best of my knowledge, there have been no opposition expressed by not one of the 72 owners. We've contacted them time and time again. Yeah. The vast majority of the people have responded and do want to be annexed, and we have heard no negative responses whatsoever.
So my question is, if all 72, you haven't heard any negative responses, all of them want to come in, why are we doing the 75% method? Why don't we do 100%?
There are some of the people that have not responded, but they have not responded negatively.
Yeah. Do you know if they're out of the country, or do you know any? I mean, do we have any idea? That's my whole thing. Is I just want to make sure that we've asked them. We've heard from them whether they want to or not. That's my only pull on this, is the fact that I just don't like the fact that we're bringing people in and we don't know their situation, why they haven't responded.
I can't tell you why they haven't responded, but they have received ample notice both from the Property Owners Association and from our management company that we use to take care of all the different kinds of contact with the owners themselves.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a vote for this today against my better judgment, but we got 2 readings on this, so hopefully between now and then we can make another effort for those folks to see if they really want to be in or not. I would appreciate that if if the staff can do it as well, can work with you on that. And let's really see if they really do want to come in or they don't. Because like I said, they could be traveling, they could be out of the country. There could be a lot of issues of why they haven't gotten back to you. And I just want to make sure we exhaust all efforts before we force anybody to come into the town, that's all.
Thank you. I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't recognize Austin Rutherford. He's been a really great ambassador for the town of Mount Pleasant in helping us go through this process, and you're truly fortunate to have such a dedicated professional on your staff.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Councilman Sanchez. No further comments? Yes? Yes? If there's anyone else, if y'all would just come on up and stand as well.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Kevin Hedges, 1279 Dingle Road. I live at the Royal Palms. Firstly, to address the gentleman's comment about the fire truck, I live at the very bottom of the road, and there is plenty of room for a fire truck to go all the way down, put out any fires at any home there, and reverse and get out very fast. Secondly, I live in England as well as here, and I have received all communications via email and phone about the annexation. So anybody that says they may not have, it would be very difficult to believe, I think. I'm sure that everyone has received communications.
Good.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Diane?
I wonder if he bet his life on it.
Good evening. Congratulations, everyone. My name's Diane Lauritsen. I live at 705 Bradburn Drive, and I did not come tonight to speak about Royal Palms, but I just want to make you aware, if you're not already, that when Royal Palms was first being proposed for development. It was in the county, it was too dense and all that. But one of the things that the original developer did was to say that we will tie on all of the existing residents along Dingle Road to sewer, and we'll pay the connection costs and the impact fees. And it took a while. We actually had to pull the bond to get it done because the original developer didn't do so well. But it happened, and I just would like to offer that up as an example of something that was originally driven by the developer. And, you know, with respect to creating impacts on surrounding residents and communities and things like that, just hope that you'll consider things like that to help people. Obviously, traffic is a big impact, but there's other infrastructure needs too. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else before we close this public hearing? Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. Mr. Demore?
Thank you, Mayor. The next item, I'll introduce it. And, you know, in the interest of public safety and due to the construction ongoing on Coleman Boulevard, we at the staff level plan to revise the parade route by reversing it. And our chief staff person that heads up our special events, Nicole Harvey, many of you know her, will show what we're planning on, so you have a good feel for what we're up to. Nicole?
And you look very Christmassy. Thank you.
I did that on
That's
purpose.
not an accident.
It is not an accident ever. So hold on, give me just a second here too. So I want you to pay particular attention to the two pictures that I chose for this because they kind of make a point that I'm going to make in a minute. I'll just go through a very quick, our holiday weekend events. We have brought back, by popular demand, our holiday movie, Elf. We will be having it at Moultrie Middle School on the football field this year on Friday night. So that it's been a very popular event. It did not go away because of lack of interest. Everybody loved it. We kind of had a partnership issue, and now we've solved all those issues, so we're bringing it back for the people of Mount Pleasant. On Saturday, December 9th, we have our holiday market at the Farmers Market Pavilion, which is a very popular event. Brings thousands of people to the area to patronize mostly Mount Pleasant crafters and artisans. So it's a very good event for our local community. And then we come to Sunday, December 10th, we'll have the Christmas Light Parade. It will be on Coleman Boulevard. There's been some debate is it canceled? It's not canceled. We've been working really hard for months to make sure that we plan a safe and enjoyable experience for all of our residents and visitors who come to enjoy this event. Here's our current situation at the area that is the bulk of the spectator viewing area. In this area, on parade day, you typically have in the ballpark of 5,000 people. And we have looked at this. We met on site with the contractor, the police department, the fire department, public service input, our emergency manager, and event staff have all gone over this extensively, and we feel like the best way to ensure public safety, spectator enjoyment, and a best experience for all involved is to switch it around. So Thursday, I have two meetings for a daytime meeting and an evening meeting. We have mandatory. I started doing this about 5 years ago, and it has worked out very well. All participants in the Christmas parade have to come to this safety meeting where I explain to them what is going to happen on parade day, because as you all know, you've all been there, it's a big event. We've got a lot of people on the roadway. So I will explain to them what they're going to be, what the parade lineup area is going to look like. The parade lineup will go from Live Oak to Farrago Street. There's a whole lot of benefits, actually, we have discovered in this. And then we'll actually close the road at Wilden Street, divert traffic down Wilden to McCants. Like when it's the other way around, we divert traffic onto Pelzer. And so that we believe will work very well. And then the timing will all remain the same as it always has. 4 o'clock, that section of road will close off for the lineup. And then at 5 o'clock, we will close the off-ramp from the bridge to Coleman Boulevard. DOT has signed off on that. And we will close, so that will close from the off-ramp of the bridge to Coleman Boulevard to Mill Street. That will be the parade route, Mill Street to Coleman, or to Patriots Point Road. And then we will have, this is a little bit difficult to understand, but, and you may or may not be familiar with the fact that if you actually go straight at Coleman Boulevard, where you would go up onto the bridge or down off of the bridge, you can walk to the park through a little patch of grass right there. So that will work very well. We've gone out and examined the grass area there. It will work well for the walkers to go straight ahead. Floats will be turned left onto Patriots Point Road and then right onto Harry Holman. You can see where we've noted the participant pickup area and the parking area, and there's the plan in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Any questions from council? Mr. Owens?
Yeah, Nicole, can you tell us whether or not you've got any shuttles for citizens from the Old Village or Indian Village area from Patriots Point back to their
We have never run shuttles, and I actually think that, are you talking about parade participants as in from the park area for the participants who are in the parade, or spectators?
No, spectators.
Oh, no, sir. But we've never run shuttles to get people back to Cooper Estates or any of those. That, you know, people, as you know, you've been there, parked everywhere, and it works out. So I think there's a lot of parking actually on this end that people are going to find. I actually have the benefit of having been a spectator of this event with my children when they were small, in the event with my children when they were small, and now this will be my 8th parade planning it. And we had no problem. We actually parked at one of these businesses over here the first year I came, walked over, and so people find their way.
Okay.
Mayor, I have one question, and I promise I don't mean to be disrespectful by bringing this up, but is this something we normally do as a council, talk about the direction of the Christmas parade? Or I'm sure it's a safety issue. I'm sure there's really smart public safety people that brought this to us, but are we going to vote on this tonight, whether to change it or not?
I don't think this requires a vote of council unless, and I appreciate staff, something this big when you're dealing with your community's Christmas traditions, I think, and as rumors spread, we all heard the rumors there wasn't going to be a Christmas parade this year, and that was never true. But I think the staff was doing us a favor so that we can serve our constituents and say, wait a minute, you know, we're having to make some accommodations because parts of Coleman are torn up. But normally, no, we don't vote on the.
We're receiving
You
this
can't
information.
look forward to this every Christmas
This one.
and deciding where the route is going to be. Because I think you have a history with that, don't you?
I think I picked the current route, which is bad. But yes, I do. Thank you.
No, you don't see me very often.
Any others? Yes.
Yes, so this is going to be a temporary route until they fix it, and then we'll go right back to the way it was, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And do me one favor again. Tell us where it's going to start, where exactly it's going to start, because there's going to be a lot of people in the Shenwood area and back towards that part of town that are going to need to know where they should go in order to see the parade.
Absolutely, and just to also touch on that just a little bit, we have an extensive PR plan in place. We are already booked on media the whole week leading up to the parade. We're going to get
Nicole,
the word out.
you said extensive, not expensive.
Extensive free coverage, thanks to all the people here in the room. So yes, we will have all this information in a lot of places. So, but it will begin officially at Mill Street and end at Patriots Point Road in McGrath Darby.
So they won't have the stands out there anymore like they usually do in the lighting of the tree?
We will be putting 3-tier bleachers along the sidewalk in some of the areas like we always have. And we will have the stage there, and it's a lot of the rest of it is going to feel just the same. It's just going to be backwards.
So the Christmas tree lighting fireworks, they'll be still at Moultrie, or will they be
We
somewhere
are
else?
working with the fire department, the fireworks company, the contractor, and we're hoping that we will shoot the fireworks off from the town hall football field.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else to be recognized? It seems to me that, A, this will result in more parking down on this end, down on the Patriots Point end, and B, that we all know from when we formed up under the old way, going in the other direction, there's a lot of activity, a lot of people in transit. It seems to me like we will now be involving more businesses and more parking on the west part of Coleman than we were before, and I think this is probably going to turn out to be a good parade.
Thank you.
I think it's
I think so
it's a
too.
good plan, but the safety aspect to this is the overbearing issue, I think, for all of us.
Correct.
If
And
it
this
weren't
has
for
been
that,
in
we
my
probably
mind for 2 years. This isn't a new project, you all
Right,
know, so.
right. So I don't believe this requires an action of council.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We just
Okay.
want to make sure you're informed.
I think we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council,
Thank
very
you,
much,
Nicole.
and congratulations to all of you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
The new
Nicole.
people.
And Mayor and council members, if you'll join me out front to honor an employee. Mayor and council members, we have a 30-year employee in the fire department, and Chief Williams is going to lead us in this recognition. Chief.
Thank you. Captain Reggie Gutch, would you come up, please? I would also like to invite his dad up, who was a retired fire chief under North Charleston. Chief Gutch, would you come up, please? It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Reginald Gutch. He is a captain at Fire Station 3. Reggie came right out of high school to come to work with us. He grew up in the fire department. And I will say this, and he remembered his first year as an 18-year-old was challenging to a point where he almost didn't have a job. But he grew up from that stage in his life as any 18-year-old would be when they have to have some standards. And we're fortunate that he decided to grow up and be a valuable asset with this department. In the 30 years, Captain Gutch has had opportunity to get promoted, but he has turned down those opportunities because he feels like his job is served better to be a mentor and also advisor to young firefighters. He's been in that position for almost 20 years. And he's our senior captain here. And matter of fact, he has the second-ranked longevity in the fire department as of tonight. And once again, he has done wonderful things. He worked in areas, and his expertise is really motivating and shaping young people into what we want as firefighters. And I think what helps him, he can share his experience of where he almost was not a firefighter, what it takes to remain a firefighter. So with that, I introduce everybody, Captain Reginald Gutch for 30 years of service. Thank you, Reg.
You gotta have Dad. You gotta have Dad. Thank you. Again, thank you. All right, approval of the minutes. Yes, sir. Everybody a chance to get in their seat.
Need some elbow room.
The next item on the agenda, item 6, is approval of the minutes from the October 10th, 2017 Town Council meeting, the November 10th Special Town Council meeting, and the October 2017 financial statement.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor of approval of these minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The ayes have it. They are approved. Next, item 7, correspondence and public statements. Mr. Demore.
Yes, Mayor. First, Barry Wolf.
Barry Wolf, 1468 Pocahontas, and I should know what this mic does from Bozeman. But let me say that it's an honor to be the first person to address you in correspondence and public statements. And I would be remiss to not thank Councilman Gorich, Carrier, Smith. Oh, that's right. And Mayor Page for their service to this town. I welcome our new council and just happy to see you guys sitting up there. It's been a tough couple of years for this town, and it's time for everybody not to be from the north end or the south end, or a creeker or not a creeker. It's time for us all to get to work and work as one. And I think that the results of the last 2 elections show that you have a populace that thinks we've got the right people to sit up here and put ourselves back together as a town, measure what we do. There's stuff in, there's 66,000 homes in the books. Not a whole lot we're going to be able to do with that. But let's make sure going forward that we do the people's business and we do it as one town. There is no divided town. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Dennis Blythe.
Dennis Blythe, 610 Pelzer Drive, Mount Pleasant. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you for offering yourselves as public servants and congratulate those that are new on the council and our new mayor. I will mention that it happens to be my son's 19th birthday tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to celebrating that and celebrating a rebirth in the town of Mount Pleasant of public involvement, of the council listening to the public and being concerned about our citizens and their interests first. I agree with Barry's comments wholeheartedly about this being one town, and we need to be united and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
David Shemp.
Well, Barry only got to be first because he got here earlier than I did. My name is Dave Shemp, 1551 Ben Sawyer, Simmons Point. I'd like to add my comments to the chorus of congratulations. I want to thank each of you for your devotion to our town and running for office. I know that running isn't easy. Serving certainly isn't easy. But I just thank you for your commitment to public service. The new people, especially on council. I'll be brief, but I just want to make a few requests as you start digging into the huge tasks ahead of y'all. First and foremost, please investigate any possibility to unwind the shenanigans that surrounded the approval of the Atlantic settlement. Second, please take another look and reevaluate the traffic quagmire that we have on Coleman. Third, although the parking garage will certainly be a blight on our cherished Shem Creek
from now on. To my knowledge, there is still no definitive determination of the zoning and mapping of the Shem Creek Marine District to prevent future encroachment. Please make sure that there can be no confusion in the future where the Shem Creek Marine District is. And further, I recommend Town Council consider appointing outside legal counsel to review the Atlantic issues, since the town attorney and his firm provided legal advice to support and advance these questionable actions. I also request that Town Council support an advocacy for anti-SLAPP legislation. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, it's a strategic lawsuit against public participation. So in such legislation to have real teeth, such as hotline sanctions, reimbursement for legal expenses, and so on. I have personally experienced SLAPP in this town on 2 occasions, having been served subpoenas over the last couple of years by developers' lawyers because I had the audacity to express my opinions to town council in a public forum. These subpoenas were excessively broad and intrusive to the extent of harassment. They were clearly designed to deter me from providing my opinion to my elected representatives on town council.
Mr. Shem.
Time,
sir. If you- yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll be pleased to serve in a working group where we can look into those issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris Dobbs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chris Stobbs, 3421 Shagbart. Actually, I was walking by and they had the sign-up sheet, so I figured I've never really done this that I can remember, so I'm usually on that side. So I wanted to say congratulations to our new mayor, our Mayor Pro Tem, and our distinguished ladies and gentlemen of Town Council. I know what goes into being on that side of the podium. I know that you guys are putting in 10 hours behind the scenes for every 1 hour that you're out in the public. You're going to be dealing with constituents, you are preparing for these meetings, you're attending the meetings, you're meeting with staff, you are planning, researching, there's a lot there, and I really do appreciate everything you guys are doing, guys and gals are doing. And I also want to say, as the president of the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce, my door is always open. If you ever need anything, just let me know. And also, in my other hat, as a member of the Charleston County School Board, if you need anything from the school district, I'm here. Just give me a call or email me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
That's all I have, sir.
That ends the correspondence and public statements portion of our agenda. Let's move along. Yes, sir.
I had submitted a request to speak.
Oh,
I didn't have
okay.
it, sir. That's okay.
Mr. Canning.
And I also emailed the clerk for a picture to be displayed while I spoke.
Yes, sir. It's loaded.
Okay. That's not the picture, but Kevin Canane, 3032 River Vista Way.
Bear with us for a second.
For about 3 years, the council members that are already on council know what I'm about to speak about, I think. I've come up and I speak about the fire department, not to be a pain in the neck, not to make it political, but because it's a matter of life and death. And last month, under the old mayor, we saw an unprecedented display under which the mayor asked the fire chief to come up and basically dance around and play politics with a fire that happened. Absolutely, that's unacceptable. You know, I was kind of busy. I didn't get to listen to the tapes from that fire until today. But I can tell you that it's troubling, the situation that our fire department is in currently. And a lot of that can be blamed on the people who just left. So what I'm asking you as a father, as a retired firefighter, and just an activist in the community, is to please take a look at how the fire department's being treated, the priority that it's being given. You know, the mayor closed a ladder company while this town grew by about 25,000 probably during her tenure between council and mayor. We closed the ladder company. We closed a ladder company as the town grew. It's absurd. It doesn't make any sense. And if you look at the numbers of what Charleston had prior to the big fire on Savannah Highway, we're pretty much right there. We didn't learn those lessons here, and they learned them at the funerals, sadly. So what I'm asking you to do is please recognize that this is now an opportunity and a new day, and the denial that has been institutionalized by the prior mayor can be changed now under your leadership. And make it a priority, protect our firefighters because they are out there understaffed and inadequate number of units. We have no backup plans. And we need your leadership now to turn the page on the old problems. And, you know, I ran for council and, you know, the firefighters were told, don't talk to anyone, don't get involved and talk to any candidates. And that was
2 minutes.
That was extra because Kevin Cunane was running. So what I'm asking you to do is reach down to the lower levels of the fire department, the ones that are actually putting the fires out, and ask them, don't listen to me, don't listen to the bureaucrats, listen to the people doing the job. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an image loaded. We can't retrieve it? Yeah. Mr. Cunane had asked for an image to be presented before you this evening. And, it's a picture of a burned house. So.
That's correct.
You can
It's a
imagine
picture of a
burned
completely
house.
destroyed house in a broad daylight fire. And I just want you to think about if that was 3 o'clock in the morning instead of 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that something we're comfortable with?
Thank you. Are we waiting on the image?
Well, yes, I see the image, but we can't bring it up, sir.
Okay, we need to move ahead with our agenda then. It's time to move to item 8, which is planning. Mrs. Farrell, is she still?
Mr. Olmo.
Yes, and Mr. Okay, so he will begin. Welcome, it's good to have you on board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you all.
And a lot of change in Mount Pleasant, and you're riding that wave with us, and it's good to have you with us.
I'm looking forward to hanging 10 with you, I think.
All right, thank you.
This first reading is the ordinance for the annexation that was presented at public hearing for Royal Palms, as well as the ordinance for the zoning for TH Townhouse District.
Mr. Mayor, can we take these items together, or would you prefer we take them separately?
Separately.
Separate?
Separate.
Okay. I move for approval for item A1.
We have a motion and a second for approval for item A1. Is there? Mr. Bustos?
Yes, sir. We see you, Mr. Freeman.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any comments from the public?
Mr. Freeman, you signed up to speak.
George Freeman, 1450 Bowman Road. I'm glad I signed up now because from that quick vote just now, motion just now, I'm wondering if you heard me. There's a very major problem with annexing this project as it is, with open space in there. You're giving them the opportunity to build even more townhouses in that space. And as I mentioned about the connection, if you don't require that connection, all that traffic will be coming to Highway 17 forever in the future. The purpose the county put that connection in there was so that there'd be a possibility for traffic to be able to get to Billy Swales and not just to that traffic light. If you don't do that, we will be continuing to add traffic to that intersection of Highway 17 and 41. I am not in objection to the annexation. It's just that we have an opportunity to make sure we do not overbuild in that area. The 72 homes would not have been there if the overlay district was created before they were built. But now that it's there, it's fine that it's there, but we don't want any more to be built. And the way to do that is to put these conditions in and to help the traffic to make sure that they have another way out of this subdivision. If we don't, like I said, we will just continue to add to the traffic on Highway 17. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Clarkin?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that the development phase of this project is completely concluded. The developer is out of the project. The homeowners association has taken over the management of the entire thing. By looking at that graphic, it would appear that there is some more land that could be built upon. That's not true. I know I had to chase my puppy through it. That's wetlands. There's no more land to build on. Just want to make sure everybody knew that.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bustos.
At the planning or not planning commission, but at the planning committee, I asked the question if this area was built out, and I was told it was, and it is. And, you know, we can put other conditions on it if we see we need to by second reading. But as we understand it from the minutes, this project is built out, was built out when they requested to annex in.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Owens.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to, Frank, if you could address this for me, I'd appreciate it. You've got a couple of units that are, I guess that's a pond that's adjacent to Billy Swales Boulevard, correct? There's, is there any way that you have any intentions on tying into Billy Swales from Dingle Road?
We do not have any intentions of doing that. It looks like you've got a lot more room at the end of that street to actually tie into Billy Swales than you do. But if you come over there and walk it with me, I can assure you that it won't accommodate a typical roadway.
It looks like you'd have to take out some of the units in order to do it.
I believe you would.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir.
Any, Mr.
Mayor, there was another speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Jefferson, you had signed up to speak either on this item or the next one. Would you like to speak now, sir? Yes, sir. Okay.
For the record and for everybody's edification, my understanding, this picture that we're looking at now, and I just want to confirm with you, what is there in the middle, that is, I'm being told, a jurisdictional wetland, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, okay. And
There are several common area, open space areas that are jurisdictional wetlands.
jurisdictional wetlands. Okay, great, thank you. Was there another speaker? No other speaker. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion passes.
First reading, ordinance number 17058, an ordinance providing for the annexation of approximately 11.99 tract of land located on Dingle Road, identified by TMS numbers 578-00000162, 578-00000538 through 599, 578-00000595 through 596, 578-00000606 through 608, 578-00000610 through 620, 578-00000667 through 703, 578-00000711, and depicted on a plat recorded by the Charleston County RMC Office in Book L12, page 114 to 115, and Book L13, page 405 to 406.
Well done. I'm impressed. Thank you.
I know.
Next.
Next is the zoning request, which again is to zone the property TH under the town zoning. The property was developed under Charleston County as a planned development district, and the project started about the same time as the Sweetgrass Basket overlay discussions were occurring. The future land use map for the town depicts this as community conservation, which does not allow townhouses as a use in that land use designation. So the recommendation was that the zoning include just the townhouse, TH, and not include the property in the overlay because of its existing nature. Keeping it in the overlay, as is, the townhouse zoning doesn't correspond one-to-one even with the county zoning, and so there will already be nonconformities for these lots and units in terms of dimensional standards like building heights or setbacks. Further, that would be compounded to the extreme if you included this within the overlay, in that townhomes are not an allowed use whatsoever under the overlay. So any non-conforming structure damaged or destroyed wouldn't be able to even be rebuilt. It wouldn't be an allowed use. So staff's recommendation and the request of the property owners as part of their annexation was to request just the straight TH zoning district on this property.
Okay. let me ask the members of the planning committee, how was this addressed in your committee deliberation, and are we concerned about, I get it that there's nothing else that can be built on this, is that correct, Mr. Bremer?
In what condition? I mean,
Just go with what you were getting ready to say, if you would.
well, I mean, I think our discussion was that, under normal circumstances, this probably would not be the desired zoning. However, the project is built, it's there. It's not in compliance, but as Mr. Olmos said, in the case of a disaster of some sort, if one or two of those buildings were destroyed, you'd have incompatible building in that project. So the idea was just to make the zoning compatible with what's already there, as opposed to making them non-conforming with a different zoning.
Right. So I take it that the committee's discussion was probably that if there were any more building allowed in this or any more lots, that this would be a much different question, because we are, I believe, pretty much all very protective of the Sweetgrass Overlay District.
Yeah, and I think that discussion did come up. I think we were all very concerned about the Sweetgrass Basket Overlay District piece. However, this is a different situation in that this project is already built.
Already
so
built
that was the
out.
distinguishing factor, I think.
Right. Mr. Bustos, did you have?
Well, and some of this predates part of the Sweet Basket area overlay district. And I remember when I was on council before, and we worked with the Water Commission to get them water and sewer, because we needed to get folks' homes up there. So since it's already built, I think it would not be wise to not approve this, because then if someone's house was destroyed more than 50%, they couldn't rebuild it.
Correct.
Right. Understood. All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, we have a speaker signed up.
Louis Jefferson.
Louis Jefferson, 1128 McKnight Road, Mount Pleasant. I thought I had my statements together, but listening to what you all are saying, I might just be confused. I've always had a problem with the town annexing a piece of property or approving an application for annexation prior to going through the regulations of zoning. I always thought that was flipped around backward. And it's amazing that you all would annex a problematic piece of property into the town, having all of these issues around it. However, I'm the co-chair of CAGE, which is a 7-mile community. This project is on Dingle Road, which is being annexed into Mount Pleasant, but more specifically, it's in 7 Mile. 7 Mile is a community. We don't ever hear property being further identified as a community. The Sweetgrass Overlay District, part of its designation was to give protection. And that protection was not for any specific group, race, creed, or color of people. That protection was given to the geographics of an area. And I stand speaking for the 7 Mile community where this project exists. There are no more property, there are not any other dirt that the town of Mount Pleasant can annex other than dirt that's currently in the unincorporated area of Charleston County. The area that we're talking about is a mixed bag. Some of it is county, some of it is town, so forth and so on.
Mr. Jefferson, time, sir.
2 minutes.
It's gone already?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it goes fast, I know.
It's quick. Obviously, we stand really against the project coming out of the overlay district. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
I don't have any.
No speakers. We have a motion and we have a second. There being no further discussion, it's time for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by no. The motion passes.
First reading, ordinance number 17059, an ordinance to zone TH Townhouse District, an approximately 11.99 acre tract of land located on Dingle Road, identified by TMS numbers 578-0000162, 578-0000538 through 599, 578-0000595 through 596, 578-0000606 through 608, 578-0000610 through 620, 578-0000667 through 703, 578-0000711, and depicted on a plat recorded by the Charleston County RMC Office in Book L12, page 114 to 115, and Book L13, page 405 to 406.
Thank you. Hey, Ms. Farrell.
Hello.
How are you? You're going to take us through the old business?
I am. And before I begin that, I would like to take 1 second, apologize for the technical difficulty we had a second ago. I think that when I complete my presentation here of the old business, we can switch and at least provide you with the image that Mr. Cunane provided to us earlier. So I'll continue with my presentation, though, however, of old business. So the first item that we have for old business is one that actually came through the Public Services Committee originally, came to you all for first reading, and then we went back through the planning process with the Planning Commission for a public hearing, and then the Planning Committee, and this is a text amendment to provide for an impervious surface overlay district. And let's see, we do not have the right map up. If we could switch a little bit backwards. On this. And so speaking to the text, though, what this text will do is it's going to require a 40% maximum impervious surface coverage for properties within the designated area that will be shown on the map here in a second. This mirrors the text that already exists in the old village area. And so what this will do is it'll be exclusive to generally let's see, we are moving to the map here. This will only apply to single-family detached properties. Will not apply to any commercial properties. That was a discussion at the Public Services Committee to not apply to a commercial. They always have to meet. They already have to meet their drainage requirements anyway. This also would not apply to, for example, Waterworks has properties within this particular area. It wouldn't apply to Waterworks. Would not apply to churches or schools or things of that nature. And so now we do have it up on the screen. And so everything that you see outlined in red is the area to which this new overlay district would apply. And so the only exception besides those that have already named, which would be like the Waterworks type of facility or schools, would also be those townhomes that you all are familiar with right there. I didn't draw a very good circle, but y'all see it right there off of Center Street. So because the amount of impervious surface that is already on those lots would be, it already would far exceed the requirements with this ordinance. So this is back in front of you for consideration for final reading. I would like to point out that when we came through the first time, the draft that was presented to you for first reading, we had included some language regarding some exemptions because we thought as we were trying to figure this out that we might have to write an exemption for the old village. Because we've got a map now that clearly shows it. So prior to final reading, we do need an amendment to remove those exemptions that are provided at the end of the draft text, and that will be make everything clear and will comport with what you see on the screen outlined in red. And so I would request that amendment prior to final reading and then an amended final reading.
Okay,
Please.
I'll make a motion that we amend the text of the ordinance in keeping with what Ms. Farrell has said.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let me ask Mr. Pagliarini, does this meet our discussion about amend as approved by the Planning Committee?
Yes, sir.
That meets that requirement. Is everybody clear on that? It just clears up the language and the boundary. Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion from council? Any questions? Or anyone signed up to speak from the public? Okay, there being none, let's put it to the vote. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes.
And now I'd like to make a motion for approval of final reading as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from council or anyone from the public? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Final reading, ordinance number 17053, an ordinance to amend Chapter 156 of the Mount Pleasant Code of Ordinances by adding the new section 156.321, establishing an impervious surface lot coverage overlay district.
Yes.
Okay, the next item that we have is to rezone a piece of property from neighborhood commercial to area-wide business. This property is under half an acre, located on Old Georgetown Road behind the new Bowman Place Shopping Center. It is included within the Urban Corridor Overlay District, so the request to rezone from NC to AB has been recommended for approval by both the Planning Commission and the Planning Committee. And then, of course, you had first reading last month.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I have one question. I'll get used to it eventually. The question I think Mr. Santos asked was about hotels in that area. And does the zoning allow hotels there, either zoning?
Yes. I'll explain, though, just to explain the differences. So NC does allow for a hotel, but it's limited to a boutique hotel, so no more than 50 rooms. AB would allow for any size hotel. However, because the property is included within the Urban Corridor Overlay District, that expands those permitted uses that are found within the NC district to be those that are in the AB. So it eliminates that boutique hotel option, and any size hotel could potentially be built there.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Owens.
Ms. Farrell, in looking at the property, I did a little digging in the tax maps, and it looks like the same owner owns approximately those 5 parcels there. It would appear that, you would erase the lines and you would have one large parcel of property.
I believe that's their intent.
That's their intent, is to combine the property into one.
Yes, I don't know for what purpose. I know that several of you have heard that perhaps the intended use would be a hotel, but we don't have any submittals or applications for that. But that what you're saying is exactly correct, because you can see that the rest of them are zoned AB. So if they did want to abandon those property lines, what we would end up with is a piece of property with zoning lines that don't match up to any property lines.
Correct. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Ms. Farrell, do we know if all those are together, how much acreage? Because as you look at this, it's less than 4/10 of an acre, but if it's part of a bigger picture, that could change the equation.
It's about 2 acres.
Yeah, that would be my assumption, though. Looking at the one that's highlighted on there, which is 0.4 acres, they're all very similar in size, with the one, of course, just north of it being a little bit larger, but I think that would be what we'd come up with in the end.
Okay, and if council tonight were to not pass this, a little speculation on your part, but what might that portend for these uses of this property, or is that anybody's guess?
It wouldn't affect it because it's part of the Urban Corridor Overlay District. The use, if we're going to continue the discussion about a hotel, the use of a hotel would still be a permitted use. This, I would say, is probably really more administrative, that it's cleaning up so that we don't end up with underlying zoning districts that don't match any property line whatsoever sitting there underneath. It won't change what the permitted uses. No, sir, because it's already part of the overlay.
Okay, that's good. Everybody clear on that? Yes, sir.
I think we need to take a look at the urban corridor on Chuck Dolly Boulevard. Honestly, I think we need to take a good look at that, because we're looking at more and more hotels. As you see, there's a tiny little street that's going to service that area there with a dead end at the other end. So they're going to have one way in, one way out, and that's going to be right on Bowman Road. And even if they did have another exit on the other side, you've got the car rental place there, and I just don't see that being able to serve, being able for them to be able to get in and out and access to Johnny Dodds Boulevard without causing a lot of traffic. So I would like to see the planning committee take another look at the urban corridor on Choctaw Boulevard. Let's look at that again and see if we shouldn't remove that out of there. Just my opinion.
No.
This kind of scares me, a big hotel like this going right there, right across the street from 2 other hotels.
And I'll just offer, because the urban corridor is broken up into 3 sections. You do have the Coleman Ben Sawyer, you have the Johnny Dodds, and you have the Chuck Dolly. This
Right.
is actually part of the Johnny Dodds section. The Chuck Dolly section is probably the least intense of all the 3, and so that the possibility of doing a large hotel may not be as much there. This is part of Johnny Dodds, though, and Johnny Dodds it's got the greater building height, it's got the more expansive uses, so
I'm a little confused though if it doesn't have access to Johnny Dodds.
Yeah.
but it's the way the map is drawn.
Can we redraw the map?
Sure.
I mean, it's going to dump out on Bowman Road is what it's going to do, according to what I'm looking at. And it's a very small road that's going to be servicing that. Plus, you have the businesses on the other side that'll be sharing that road as well. It just looks like putting 6 pounds of mud in a 5-pound bag, it just, in my opinion. So I think we really need to maybe take a look at that, have our planning committee take a look at this again and make sure that all of this is going to fit.
Okay. Mr. Busso?
Yeah, and this might be a great place to start the discussion of a district, a hotel district, because we're starting to have hotels pop up all over town, and I think this is time to have that discussion. I don't know what the will of the council is to do with this, but I do believe that we need to start that discussion now.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to see that after we finish voting, perhaps that referred to back to Planning Committee.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion on item 2?
I'll make a motion that we deny the request for rezoning.
Second.
We have a motion for denial, and we have a second. Any discussion on that motion?
Can part of the motion be, and then send it back to the planning commission or the committee for further insight that you were looking for before, or, because if we vote this down right now, it's over, right?
Right. I mean, they can always come back, correct?
They could. They would have to ask for a waiver.
Yeah, we could
but
give them a
not-
waiver. Usually they have a year to wait, but we can always give them a waiver. But I think it's just too important not to look at this again before we do this, because it's sitting in an area right there that's already got a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion. I just think we need to look at it, make sure that this is going to be appropriate for that area, that's all.
Ms. Whitley?
I just have a quick question. We discussed earlier that this was more administrative than anything else, so regardless of whether this is voted down, they still could build a hotel there.
They could, yes.
So in other words, what we're saying is, the motion on the floor is a motion for denial. If that is voted, if that passes, if it's denied, we're really not changing the use from the possibility of a hotel at all.
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted everybody clear on that. Were you asking to be
I
recognized?
pointed Joe.
Yes, Mr. Busso.
I would ask Mr. Santos if he would change his motion and just send it back so we can tie it into this whole idea of districting and see if we come up with a hotel district. We need to have that conversation. Sure. So if we do that, we would just defer action on this until we start talking about that district, and it may fall out that that's not going to be the district.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with sending it back, so I'll remove my motion for denial.
To deferral?
To deferral, send it back to the planning committee.
Mr. Owens, do you amend
yes,
your?
I'll amend my
Okay,
second.
so we now have a motion for deferral. Is there any other comment or conversation on that from council or from the public? Yes, sir.
Just one question. Is there a time limit on when this has to be acted on or brought back to council?
Yes. You have to complete all actions within 6 months. So if there is an favorable decision, we would count last month as 1 month, and then I can't do the math that quickly in my head, but 6 months out from last month.
So it's doable. It appears doable.
Right.
Within the 6 months.
Yeah, you need to finalize your action, whether it's approval or denial, within that time frame.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is for a deferral, meaning it will go back to the planning committee and be looked at in the context of the urban corridor overlay district and the possibility of a hotel district. Okay, everybody clear on that? So the motion is for a deferral. All in favor say aye.
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 Oh, I'm sorry. We had a speaker.
Sean Barnes?
No, okay. Got it. Okay. Again, all in favor on the deferral, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Item 3, please.
The final item that you have is an annexation of a piece of property in the Commonwealth neighborhood. You can see it's highlighted on the map, has an existing home, and they've requested to be part of the town.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. You probably did not, they're on this end. Who was the second? Mr. Bustos? And you were the motion? Okay. A motion to approve in a second. Any discussion from council or any speakers?
No, sir.
No. There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Motion passes.
Final reading, ordinance number 17056, an ordinance providing for the annexation of approximately 1.15 acre tract of land located at 485 Commonwealth Road, identified by TMS number 59612000011, and depicted on a plat recorded by the Charleston County RMC office in Plat Book B.O., page 117.
Thank you. This brings us to item 9, committee reports. I would ask everyone who has one to submit it to the clerk. We do have one. If you turn the page to item, let's see, what is that on? Finance Committee. Item 1, approval to accept the 2018 DUI Enforcement and Education Grant. This is pretty much a formality.
Yes.
Is that new business?
Have that image. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's,
There is an image from the earlier speaker. I believe that is the house fire in Hamlin that was in Mount Pleasant. Is that correct?
That's a broad daylight fire. It was a surrounding ground operation from the outside, like a rural fire department would do. We can do better, is my point.
Thank you.
Not the firefighter, we do a great job.
Right.
Town can do better than that.
Thank you. All right, so we are at committee reports. We're in Finance Committee. Item number 1, approval to accept the grant. This being from committee, it really does not require a second. Any discussion?
No, do you need approval?
We need approval. If there's any
Thanks.
discussion or there's not any, we vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion passes to approve the 28.
Excuse me, just a point of order. I think we need a motion and a second to approve, correct?
Motion, not a second, but
Right.
there could be
So I'll make a motion that we approve the 2018 DUI Enforcement and Education Grant.
Got it.
So I need a second.
second. I didn't think you needed a second.
Need a second from committee. Thank you.
Okay.
And the
thank you.
vote still stands.
Good, we got it.
Right, approved.
Sorry.
All right, does that do us on committees? Administrators report, item 10.
Thank you, Mayor. Just announcing some vacancies. We have 3 on the Old Village Historic District Commission. We have 4 Construction Board of Adjustment seats available and 1 Culture, Arts, and Pride Committee vacancy. Announcing those.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. Item 11, council business. Item A, new business, is the adoption of a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the United States Coast Guard, Sector Charleston, and Metro Maritime agencies regarding ferry security operations.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion from council or any clarification needed from staff? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion is approved.
It's Resolution 17112.
Item number 2 is adoption of a resolution authorizing a law enforcement mutual aid and jurisdictional agreement between the City of Charleston Police Department and the Town of Mount Pleasant Police Department.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion from council? Any clarification needed?
No, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion is approved.
Resolution 17113.
Item number 3 is first reading of an ordinance authorizing a lease of property known as the Trident Academy Gymnasium to the Town of Mount Pleasant. Mr. Demore, if you would just give us a little background.
I'd be happy to. Actually, Mr. Gerke is prepared with the details. Steve, would you go ahead and tell us the term and the price tag, please?
Sir, good evening. Yeah, thank you. We have been leasing the Trident Academy gym through Cainhoy, I'm sorry, not through Cainhoy, through the Cainhoy Soccer Club previously. That lease agreement, we were subleasing it from them, and now we are going to be leasing it directly from Trident Academy. We will be, the existing agreement that we have with Cainhoy will be extended for 1 year under the same terms, the same prices. It's basically with $13,600 a year. For the 2017-18 season. We have also expanded to go into June and July of 2018 to use it for our summer basketball season. It previously was only during the winter basketball league, and now we are also doing it during the summer. So that adds another $9,730 to the agreement.
And while this gym at Town Hall was torn down, a new one being erected, it makes this agreement important to us.
Right,
Sounds
the
good.
existing gym at Town Hall should be completed by November of next year, but the extension of that will kind of give us a security blanket, knowing that, you know, if it's not done, that we're ready to go into the next year without losing a gym.
And it's good for us, and good for the school as well.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Steve, can I ask one question? Is that exclusive use? Does that give us the gym?
It does not, no. The gym
Just
is
during the
Trident
period of
Academy's
time.
gym, but we have, after their use of the gym, they have the priority use of any of the gym. We have specific times and dates that are in here. I could go through them. The specific times.
No, please don't. But just one more thing. So it's 13,000 plus the 9.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from council? We have a motion. Did we get a motion? We have not done a motion. Thank you.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second. Now we have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
First reading, ordinance number 17060, an ordinance authorizing a lease of property known as the Trident Academy Gymnasium to the town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a follow-up discussion regarding the personal liability of elected officials when voting. This involves, lots of things, and this is for anything that we may act on, and especially to the new council members. We had a situation before the new council that at which we believed that there might be some exposure of town council members to personal liability when acting in an official capacity. The last time this was voted on, was that September?
I believe so.
I believe it was September. It was unanimous. But to ask the Attorney General's Office of the State of South Carolina to give us their opinion, which does not hold the, I believe, does not hold the force of law, but it is an opinion from the Attorney General's Office that would help be a guideline for us in the future. We did pass this unanimously under the old council, but the way they operate, they like to know that the council wants it and that it's not members of the council using it against other members, and I thought it would be a good idea to be reaffirmed. So we would be looking for a motion to approach the Attorney General with that question, and I will offer to lead the drafting of that, and what is sent to them for them to give us an opinion on will be approved by council.
Mayor, is there a fee for that opinion?
Not that I am aware of. Is anyone aware of a fee?
No, I've asked for it before, and they didn't charge you anything. Not for this specific issue, but before.
Thank you.
No. So is there a motion from council to proceed on that?
Motion to proceed.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from council? Is there anyone here to speak to that?
Mr. Mayor, will that be a letter that will be distributed to us for review before it goes up?
That's what I meant, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We anything we send out like that, we send out as a council. We certainly will. All right, there being no further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? The motion passes. The next question is follow-up regarding that, and that is the process of entering into executive session and council action following executive session. There was some question on our standpoint of some members of council, some of us on council, and some members of the public as to whether we followed all the laws and guidelines for the use of executive session and acting on items on the agenda. Two separate things, I guess. One is a sunshine law and the other is just laws regarding the use of agenda. And we would like to do the same as we're doing with that, is ask the South Carolina Attorney General's office to give us opinion if everything that we did on that particular vote going back to, was that June, May or June? If we followed the law on that, and if not, help us to follow it better in the future for the sake of transparency and compliance with the law. Do we have any discussion or a motion on that?
I'll move. Is that going, likewise, are you going to participate in the drafting of that?
I will draft something and send it around council, and we will send it when council has approved that draft.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we authorize the mayor to draft that letter and provide it to full council for submittal to the Attorney General.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Mr. O'Rourke. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just one question on both of these letters. Do they become part of the public record, or are they protected under way? Because I know there was discussion before about the possibility of, from liability standpoint, how much becomes public. So when these responses come back, will they be in the public realm, or will they be shielded? They will.
Yes. Okay. So none of this is protected by attorney-client privilege, nor will it undo any previous actions of council. It's only a commentary on the way we conducted our business, and to serve as a guideline in the future. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second, and these will be two separate questions. They will not be, one question. So the motion is to proceed on that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Call the roll, please.
Mr. Brimmer.
Aye.
Mr. Brimmer votes yes. Mr. Bustos.
Aye.
Mr. Bustos votes yes. Ms. Landing.
Aye.
Ms. Landing votes yes. Mr. O'Rourke.
Aye.
Mr. O'Rourke votes yes. Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Owens votes yes. Mr. Santos.
Aye.
Mr. Santos votes yes. Ms. Whitley.
Aye.
Ms. Whitley votes yes. Mayor Haney.
Aye.
Mayor Haney votes yes. All in favor.
Maybe my hearing was off. I didn't hear that many ayes when we took the voice vote. All right, so the motion passes. So item 6 is an update on Park West Boulevard widening project. We're not trying to get too far into the weeds on every detail on this. I think what we would like, Mr. Marson, is what can council do to make this happen? What do we need to be thinking about in the future in terms of allocating resources and getting Park West Boulevard widened? If you'll tell us where we stand and what lies ahead.
Absolutely, Mayor. And I'll just stick to this slide then. There's some other slides that show the graphics that are presented, but to be brief, been in our long-range transportation plan for a good while. Project was identified in the CIP for funding in 2017. I think we did a mid-year 100,000, and then last year we put in $1 million to the project. Design is underway with Mead and Hunt. We've just completed the survey. We had a public information meeting several weeks ago. We had 38 attendees, about 42 responses. The survey responses were due by last Friday, and the vast majority of those supported the widening in some form or another, and most of that relates to what type of bike facility did they really prefer. And we're going to present that probably in December to committee as a summary. The design and permitting is supposed to be complete in fall of 2018. I think because we don't have a lot of, probably don't have any wetlands permitting, we probably beat that date, but if we do, that's the date for final completion. Wetlands delineation, utility coordination, and then design will come next. That's after we get council approval upon submitting the results of the surveys. Current cost estimate, we have a pretty good contingency for utility coordination. Not really sure what we're going to see out there yet, but it's in the $6 to $7.5 million range. Of the 1.1 minus the design fees, we're about 670,000 remaining in the CIP. So as to what we can do, obviously we have our CIP process coming up. It's staff is going through the process at this point in time. It'll be presented in January to council, and for your consideration at that point in time, additional funding could be considered for the project.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the council. Mr. Brummer.
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you to the previous council and also for this council for supporting this. It's a long overdue project, and I know the folks on the previous council were very supportive of moving this forward. Brad, your folks have been great trying to expedite this. A lot of excitement in the neighborhood about this. And again, this is Park West Boulevard widening. This is not a Park West project. This is a boulevard that serves most of the communities in the 41 corridor, as well as Carolina Park. So this is a major project for the north area of town. So I appreciate everybody's support on that. I'm looking forward to the discussion of finding the money for it. So onward we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, you heard that, right? Finding the money.
Finding the money, yes.
Says he who teaches finance at Clemson. Any other questions or comments? I want us to take a good look at this as it comes up to, I guess, at our retreat, right? We'll be looking at the CIP. And thank you for this. One quick question. Did I hear you say we're not expecting to have any delineated wetlands?
We come close in one small section, but we think we can stay out of it.
Okay, so nothing that would be a big monkey wrench.
Even if it were, it would be easy, fairly straightforward permitting.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude us on that? Thank you very much. Item number 7, evaluation, update and evaluation of Coleman Boulevard Transportation Project.
Yes, sir. We're happy. We have a similar type presentation if you'd like for us to proceed.
Please.
Through with that. Matter of fact, I should come around front.
Okay. I just wanted to say, probably to the staff, to the, I hate to say old councilmen, those of us who were on for the last council, our phones rang a lot on this project, and there are a lot of questions being asked, and we felt that this would be a good time to look at what we have and evaluate if this is the direction we want to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. We have for you a similar presentation here. Thought it best, because some of you are new to council, to talk a little bit about the history of sort of how we got here today. So aside from the pretty pictures, for the sake of time, I won't go through each of these, but really what we're seeing out on Coleman has been an endeavor that's been around for almost 40 years now, dating back to 1982. There was more work being done in 93 and some more council direction as far as the Coleman revitalization in 2005. Moving forward, the CRAB was established in 2006, and then there was an adoption of an amendment through the ordinance process that established the overlay districts that we see now. April 2011, the town of Mount Pleasant contracted with Trans Systems. They were the designer to develop the design plans for the Coleman Boulevard project. And the big date here is in November of 2011, when council reviewed and adopted the section for Coleman that's being constructed right now. And you see the 4 11-foot through lanes and the bike lanes and the parallel parking spaces, sidewalks, and the multi-lane roundabout, which was approved, that was canceled due to funding. And we marched through, and we had public meetings in February and April. The design was completed in April 2012 through November 2015. The project was bid. We had money for a portion of the project, phase 1 and 2, and the project is now under construction. The budget looks like, you know what it is, you know what the project does, and maybe one of the most significant things, besides the bike lanes and the turn lanes and the underground utilities and the landscape medians, is right in the middle of the slide. You'll see the impact on stormwater. If you add up both phases, it's about 4 acres of water that's being redirected from neighborhoods, and then as significantly, almost 25 acres of water that was being discharged, untreated water, into Shem Creek when the project is completed will be treated. It'll have the adaptive traffic signal program that we have on our major arteries around town, which we think buys us about 20% improvement in traffic flow. And it's important to mention too that Mount Pleasant Waterworks also has an upgrade going on within the project. You'll see here the phases. It begins at Mill Street and goes all the way down to Farrago. Those are the meets and bounds or the parameters of the project. And here is the project budget right here. You'll see $18.2 million in total value, and we expect it to last 700 days. And what I want to do now is maybe Brad and Paul, both Paul Likens, who you know very well, is the project manager for the town on this project. Paul, if you could perhaps tell council where we are today, what's happening, what the next steps are.
Sure. On the screen here, the contractor is Blight Development, and as Eric said, we have an $18.2 million contract value. A big portion of that is waterworks relocations. It's a 200-day contract, which is 2 years. We've had meetings with the business community to keep them informed. Ed Barbie and Amy Livingston have gone business to business, door to door, and have met with those folks and explained the project and provided them updates. We've installed business access signs that clearly show driveways to businesses, and we can move those around as we move about the project. We've enhanced the pavement markings, the temporary pavement markings on Coleman. They didn't come out too well the first time. Right now, and for the next few months, the initial focus will be on Simmons Street. We are currently relocating a sewer force main. We are relocating a water line and then installing stormwater drainage, as well as a large water quality device that will treat the stormwater before it discharges into Shem Creek. From now through probably after the first of the year, February, we will continue working on Simmons Street, start storm drainage on Coleman in front of Moultrie Plaza, and installing a second water quality device for the Church Street outfall. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Quick question. The action on this and the committee work predates my being on council. Did this come through the Transportation Committee or the Public Services Committee?
This came through transportation.
Through transportation. So this is a transportation project
Yes, sir.
that involves drainage?
Yes, sir.
Okay, not a drainage project that involves
Well,
transportation?
it's most of the money in the project really is drainage. When you look at all the items in the project, it is a big drainage project, but it initially started as a transportation project, yes.
As a transportation
Yes.
project? Okay. Questions from council? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Owens?
Paul, what's the duration of time from the storm drainage being started and the surface, the pavement being installed?
Project-wide?
Yes.
Okay. Currently, we are now in traffic control stage 1, which is construction of the westbound lanes of Coleman, where we have a lane shift set up where we're currently working.
Right.
That phase will run until, I believe, May, okay? And so he'll install stormwater drainage, utilities, sidewalks, curb and gutter, all the improvements on the westbound side. Then he will flip that scheme, a mirror image, over to the other side of Coleman on the middle school side and perform that same amount of work until December of next year. Okay, so come December of next year, once that is completed, traffic will then start operating normally as it did before the construction starts. Because then he'll be working on the center median only at night. All the sides will be cleaned up, all the barrels will be pushed out of the way, and he'll be working in the center. So final pavement will start when he completes the medians in December of 2018. And the paving season, of course, you run into the paving cold weather season, but that runs through May, and then final completion in August.
August of
2019.
19.
Yes.
Has there been any revisions to the existing construction drawings to date?
Any revisions?
Yeah, any revs? Is there any revs, any revisions that have occurred?
Since the letting, I think we modified some right-of-way or driveway access, I believe on one property. We are working on a revision to revise the storm drainage a little bit to help speed the process up. Do we have any other revisions? I think that's it.
Hopefully they'll start saw cutting before
Yeah.
they actually need to be there, right? Has the town ever requested a change or modification to the project?
We have. We issued a change order to add the business access signs, $1,500.
I got you.
And we recently did a change order to relocate a water line.
Right.
For waterworks.
Have we ever had reason to have a no-cost or deductive change order on past projects?
Yes, we have done no-cost change orders in the past.
Okay. Has the town been given full disclosure of all subcontractors, and has the town reviewed them completely and satisfactorily?
Yes, sir.
Do you happen to have a copy of the site plans? Is that available?
I don't have them with me, but they are in our office.
Okay, okay. I
And
guess
I believe they've been provided to you as
They
well.
have, yes, they have. In fact, I had a thumb drive. I was going to bring it with me so we could use it, but it's on my desk. So be that as it may, we're getting a lot of phone calls with regard to our citizens, the traffic problems, the congestion, the lane changes. I think they've been a few accidents along the way. What's the chances of making some incremental changes?
The traffic control scheme we have set up now follows all applicable standards. It follows the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It follows all of SCDOT standard drawings. It's a typical construction zone. It's a lane shift. Sure, it can be tweaked. We can move the barrels around, and we do when we see access issues or turning issues in front of businesses. But yes, we can tweak it as we move along. For a wholesale change, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. I don't know about the rest of council, but I hear it from a number of people about the raised medians and how that's going to affect Coleman Boulevard in the long term.
Our analysis shows that it won't have any impact on the capacity of Coleman because it will direct all the turning movements to one signal, and so you won't have all these conflicting left turns in the two-way center turn lane.
Right.
It will also provide what we call side friction to help slow traffic down, along with the buildings and the sidewalks and the pedestrians closer to the street. And it provides landscaping.
You finished, Mr. Owens?
Yeah, for now.
Mr. Santos?
I think I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I think what he's trying to say is we've been hearing a lot of pushback about the medians in the middle of the road, taking away those medians, being able to pull off into a median to allow traffic to continue moving and turning or pull on into the median and then merging over. I know that the medians in the middle of the road, they're basically traffic calming devices as well, right, Brad? Wouldn't you consider medians in the road a traffic calming device?
They have a traffic calming effect, but the
Okay.
primary benefit of the median is a safety issue, because medians, there's been many studies on this issue. Medians in general will drop your collision rates by at least 25%, some as high as 48 to 50%. So there's an obvious benefit from a safety factor of implementing medians. There's also research done on capacity improvement with medians because it provides a more uniform cross-section for the driver to drive in. The research shows up to 30% capacity gains. I don't know that we'll necessarily get that on Coleman, but so there are great benefits. Safety benefits for pedestrians for medians are nearly 50% reduction in crash rates for pedestrians. So there are great benefits to the median.
I think what I'm hearing and the issues I'm hearing that when you slow down, we have Mathis Ferry Road which has multiple roundabouts, so those are traffic calming devices. Johnny Dodds Boulevard, we now have where it goes into 5 lanes at Bowman Road. That's a bottleneck. That's a traffic calming device. And now we're putting traffic calming devices on Coleman. And what I'm hearing from people is we need to move traffic instead of slowing traffic down, because we've got so much traffic now. The more that we slow it down, the more congested it gets. And so I think from what I'm hearing from people on Coleman, that they prefer to have those medians in the middle of the road where they can pull off and when they're going to make their turns, or pull onto it when they want to merge into traffic. But if you put those medians there, you're not going to be able to do that. You'll have to do a lot of U-turns. And so I think, I'm not saying that's what Jim was alluding to, but I think he led me into that. And I think there's concern about that. And so I wanted to make sure that we put that on the record, is that we're hearing a lot of this from the public. I mean, a lot of it, wherever we go. At least I am anyway. So I'm really concerned about those medians in the middle of the road. I love the drainage, and I'm all for that. I'm just a little bit concerned about putting medians in the road, slowing the traffic down more, when I think we should be trying to move traffic along so people can get home, after in the evenings and get to work in the morning, rather than slowing it down even more. So I'm just telling you, this is what I'm hearing from my constituents.
Mr. O'Rourke.
I'll again apologize for saying I've been on council for an hour now, and I'm not really sure of a lot of things I say, but great conversation, but it probably should have taken place before the plan was done. And I think in the little bit that I know, there's probably some serious ramifications to changing this plan that could go all the way up to and include losing funding for that project. I don't know if that's accurate, but
That's accurate.
it is?
Well, and we can get into this.
My point is that I'm not saying I disagree with any of that, and I'm not smart enough to know whether medians are good or bad. But I think changing the plan now could be disastrous, quite frankly, from a financial standpoint, a time standpoint, and then especially if we go back and have to start over on this. If it's a change order, that's one thing, but I don't think that's what we're talking about right now. That's my comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Ms. Lane?
I'm thinking back to the old days of the Crosstown, and I remember very well because I worked down on Courtney Street in 1984, and I remember going down and from 26, and we did not have medians, we did not have pretty landscaping. The traffic was moving pretty quickly, and it was pretty frightening. I mean, the potential for a head-on collision was pretty high. So I'm not saying that Coleman Boulevard is anything like the Crosstown, nor would we want it to be. What I'm saying is I don't see how it slows traffic down all that much, especially because if we have bike lanes, which are going to be great because everybody loves being able to have safe bikers, and of course the sidewalks enhanced and so forth. It seems to me that it's actually going to have things flow more smoothly.
Thank you. Mr. Bustos.
The part of this that concerns me is, and Mr. DeMora made in his presentation, this thing goes all the way from 2006 to now. And, the town has changed from 2006 from approximately 45,000 people then to approximately 85,000 now. So I don't see anything wrong with checking things and looking to make sure that we're staying current with the needs of the town, because traffic from Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, from Rifle Range Road, and all those areas that are now going to Coleman Boulevard, I think need to be looked at. But before we do that, I think that we should have, as part of our research, first I'd like to say I think we need to have our attorneys look at the contracts and see if we can do any changes. There may not be any wiggle room. There may, but there may not be. So I'd like to make a motion that we ask our attorneys to give us that opinion after their analysis of the contracts, because we've heard a lot of talk about that. And then that we send this to the Transportation Committee next month in December. And I guess we could, Mr. Pagliarini, could we get an opinion of those contracts that quickly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That we do that, and then we ask the Transportation Committee to,
The
to.
to-be-named Transportation Committee, yes.
The Transportation Committee to look at that and look at the written opinion, and then come back and advise council. I mean, we all have things we'd like to change, but I think we have to temper all that with obviously what we have contractually, and then what we have with the growth of the town and the traffic and everything that has grown so much.
So we
And
have a
I
motion.
put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. O'Rourke. Any discussion from council? Mr. Owens?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to address Mr. O'Rourke's concern as far as going back to the drawing board, that's not feasible and it shouldn't be feasible for this council. But if you're looking at incremental change orders, I mean, you're going to find those along the way anyway. That's what we're talking about. I have no
I
desire.
like the motion. You know, Joe's
Yeah.
saying look at it legally first. and-
Right, I have no desire to go back to the drawing board. But being able to go to our legal team to get some advice as far as what we can do and have the Transportation Committee weigh in, I think is a valuable opportunity for us. So I would support that.
And are you finished? I'm sorry. May I ask, this would be privileged attorney-client information, right? It involves contractual matters and legal advice.
I believe so. And of course, the way we can handle that at transportation is whatever information is public, we can have that discussion. If committee feels the need to go in executive session to discuss sensitive issues, we can do that as well.
Okay.
And then the rest of council can get that confidential information.
Okay.
Because of course, only committee will be in executive session.
Right. Thank you. Everybody clear on that? Yes, Ms. Lane?
One thing to add is because of the fact that I live in Dunes West and drive 41 every day and Park West Boulevard and all these places, I really wonder, is there more that we can do to let our residents know what the timetable is, what it's going to look like at the end? Sometimes if you see a schematic of how it's going to look like that first pretty picture, but maybe put more to it, because that's just a nice sidewalk with people walking. But if you could make it so that people can get excited, then sometimes it's a little easier to tolerate the aggravation. And I think not knowing and wondering, how long will this take? How long do I have to put up with this garbage? And that kind of thing is very hard for people. And so maybe if we could do something about that. Martine, I know it does a great job, but maybe we can come up with some ways.
Well, we can always do more. We've had recent public meetings, we have a website, we have personnel in the field every day. And the cross-section as planned looks exactly like the cross-section that's in front of Brook Green. That one section is what it will look like when it's complete. But we can always do more, and we'll look to do that.
Any other? Mr. Bremer? None? We have a motion and a second, and if I had to recite the motion, I don't think I could. I think we all get the gist of it. And what will come out of this, as my understanding, if it passes in the affirmative, is that we will get legal advice from our attorneys on what our options are. Basically, that's what it is. Mr. Owens?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Haney. I'd like to make part of the public, the Code of Laws, Title 8, public officers and employees as part of the record.
Does that require anything other than that? Okay. All right, so we will now call a vote on Mr. Bustos' motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? Motion passes. I am sorry, I did not take comment. Sally, it's getting late.
My name is Sarah Jacob, otherwise known as Sally. I live at 1152 Village Creek Lane, Apartment 1, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, 29464. I want to tell you that I moved here in 2010, and that one of the charming things about the town of Mount Pleasant is a median on 17. I said, I've never seen anything as lovely as this, and the tree buffers along beside the market areas. So I know that it's difficult. And the other thing is, crossing 17 without that median is a word I don't even want to describe.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
Yes, sir. Sean Barnes, 1418 Barber Street.
and I want to thank all of y'all for serving and the new people that are here, and look forward to working with everybody. I see what goes on, and I live back there on Barber Street, like I said, and so all the cars are coming down Center and McCants, and it's like a highway. And I know we're doing construction now, but when you put those medians in there, it's not going to do anything but make McCants and Center the new highways to the islands in rifle range. I mean, there's so many on there right now, and you're talking about fast. You can't run, you can't ride, you can't walk your dog. I see it every day. I'm out there every day, believe it or not. I'm a little bit skinnier than I was. But I mean, they're going 45. I know you have police officers. I see them out there. But I think this trend is going to continue. They even have apps that send them down through there. So we need something. And I will tell you this, every now and again, I do enjoy a cup of coffee over there at Starbucks. And I see these people, and they have their little kids by the hand. And it scares me. So that median, to me, is a death trap. Because these people try to go by, and guess what? These other people don't want to stop that are riding down the road. You know, we don't have that old hospitality like we used to here. So thank you for looking into it, and hopefully we can do something to change that. Thank you again. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Any others? Yes.
Dennis Blythe, Pelzer Drive, Cooper Estates, Mount Pleasant. Just two thoughts about the medians. One, as Sean was referring to, in front of Brook Green, or as some of us think of it, in front of Boulevard, this very nicely landscaped median, we have people who are crossing the street into that median, stand in the median amongst the bushes, and then step out into the lane when they can't be seen. So something needs to be done related to that. And currently, the gentleman mentioned that there was an issue with the striping originally and the lane shift, et cetera, and that it currently, fits all current safety concerns. But late in the afternoon, when the traffic is heaviest, going west on Coleman Boulevard, the sun is directly into your eyes, into the windshield. And it is impossible to see the lines that are striped on the road when they're good, and to differentiate between the lines that were there and blacked out now and the new lines. Something else needs to be done during the construction phase to make certain that people don't head on there. It's impossible to see the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Cunane, 3032 River Vista Way. Sorry to extend the night by 2 more minutes. People have approached me about what happens with fire protection on a raised median. And I have a little experience in the urban side of things. You basically send fire trucks from both directions when you have a raised median, because that's your safety factor. You're not going to operate across the median because all the risks that Dennis just spoke about. Firefighters have it too because people panic. Firefighter jumping across the median is a suicidal act. So you send a full response from both directions. Problem in Mount Pleasant, we don't have 2 full responses. You can't send the ladder from Dunes West over to Coleman to be the ladder coming from the other direction. It's just another example of what I spoke about earlier. But if we want to be urban anything, urban corridor, urban medians, you'd have to have an urban fire department or you're putting people in danger, including the firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunane. Anyone else? All right. So we already voted. Sorry, I got that out of order. Remind me not to do that ever again. We move to item 8 under council new business, consideration to allow council members to include additional comprehensive plan forum members from previously submitted applicants. This is on the agenda because the body that is up here today represents the latest choice of the voters of the people of Mount Pleasant and of the city of Mount Pleasant. And we're talking about a citizens forum group. And the question is, do we want, and that group is now 30, is it right at 30 members, or did it come out somewhere near?
I believe we're at 34.
34 members. So we're talking about whether council members would include by some means additional members, and it's no way intended to be on here, but of course we do the will of council to really change the balance of that group in any way. But it is a citizen-driven document, the comprehensive plan, and if council so wills, there will be more citizens, so it will be more citizen-driven as it works its way up through Planning Commission, through Planning Committee, and ultimately to council. So we will open it up to council discussion or any possible motions. Mr. Owens.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Haney. I think it's a good idea to be all-inclusive. And this is also, as you were speaking, I was thinking that the selection would be out of the overall pool that's already been established. It's not picking out any new people. It's incorporating the people that were selected originally. I think it was 275 applicants at one time. And out of that, we've got 34. This is a great opportunity. There are a lot of folks, according to the map that was distributed, that aren't represented. This would give people a great opportunity to make sure that they are. I don't live in the northern part of town, but I represent those folks, and I can see that they're not represented in Park West, Darrell Creek, and part of Carolina Park. And I think they have as much right to representation as anybody else across town. I think this is a great opportunity for us to give them that voice. And so I would like to see this go forward.
Thank you. Others? I don't think I heard a motion. Yeah.
I can put that in a form of a motion.
Shorten it a little bit for you.
Yeah. So I move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Can you be a little more specific in your wording? How many appointees, by what means?
Yes.
I do have a question before you word your
Yes.
motion, because it might be a procedural thing, Mr. Pagliarini. Would council member, do we have a mechanism by which council members make individual appointments, or do council members nominate people to the mayor's office as we've done with task force? And what I'm getting at is, instead of people who might be put on this committee being looked at as the representative of one particular council member, it would come from the council through the mayor's office, and they would be appointed en masse, as it were, as opposed to this new person was appointed by Councilman A, this one by Councilman B.
I think you could do it either way, sir. I mean, if you want to accept, or, for example, I think one of the prior discussions was 2 or however many per council members, and they can all be brought to you as mayor, and you can approve it if that's the way you would prefer to do it.
I don't have a preference. I wanted to see if y'all had one.
Yeah, and just to add that previous councils have appointed members of the planning committee in the past. We addressed that, I think, a couple months ago. So the motion would include the ability for each council member to appoint someone if so desired. It's not mandatory. So council members, all council members don't have to appoint.
Does that include the mayor?
That includes the mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Just a clarification as well. If we're looking at populating folks in the areas that are not represented, we would only be picking those folks that live out here. In other words, you wouldn't look at the whole group of 200 people who are left over. You'd only be looking for them in this area, the folks that have filed their requests in this area. Is that correct?
Well, it's up to Mr. Owens' motion. I did not hear it restricted geographically.
No, I didn't restrict it. I don't think it needs to be restricted, but I certainly believe, and we have some council members now who live in the northern part of town who could certainly make their recommendations through that pool of resources that we already have and currently have, and find some representation.
But your motion is restricted to those who previously applied, who've been vetted,
Yes.
as it were, if that's not too strong a word, vetted. So we're not going and picking anyone who's new to this who did not already apply.
There's no further selection other than the pool that we've already established.
Okay. So we have your motion. Did we have a second to it, the motion as clarified, maybe not amended. Did you second? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Ms. Whitley?
My question is this really the role of council to be selecting additional members to this committee? Or would it be more the role of the planning commission to go back to the planning commission and say, there's underrepresentation in this particular geographic area, please select 2 or 3 more people to represent that area? Because I vaguely remember at a previous town council meeting, the discussion of the council wanting to stay out of this as far as like being perceived as making political appointments to the committee.
Mr.
May I,
Owens?
yeah, Mayor, I don't see this as being a political, I see this as being a responsibility of this council to act on behalf of the citizens, particularly the ones that are unheard.
Okay. Other discussion? Anyone? Yes, Mr. Brewer.
Yeah, we had this conversation a few months ago, and I expressed my opinions at that time, sort of opposing this idea. Let me just kind of summarize my thoughts around that for the new folks here. This was an idea that was vetted by the planning committee, and it unanimously was supported that council not play a role in the selection, that it be resident-driven as opposed to politically driven. And the main reason for that was in previous planning groups, council did the appointing. And one of the biggest complaints we heard about prior comprehensive plans was that council sort of stacked, the perception was that council stacked that group with folks that they wanted. So it really wasn't resident-driven. So the thinking was that this time we would let it be resident-driven and let council stay out of it and really hear what the residents have to say. Excuse me. So the planning committee unanimously approved that and forwarded that to here to council. Council then unanimously approved the selection process, which was to divide the town into different neighborhoods and have an equal representation in each neighborhood of residents. Town council said, yes, that's the way we need to go, and we did. It wasn't until the list came out that council sort of said, wait a minute, we need to change it here a little bit. And I'm not really sure what that's about, but I'm not really sure who's being underrepresented, because we have an equal number of representatives in each of the 8 neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, we don't.
So my one question is, excuse me, what problem are we trying to solve here? We've got a process, we've got equal representation of residents. I'm not really sure what the problem is we're trying to solve.
Is that a question you want answered now?
Mr. Santos, 1 second. So I guess getting back to council appointees is sort of getting back to the old process we had before, which was criticized so heavily in town, which was politics interjecting itself to get the outcome that we want. And I think we were really clear earlier on that we didn't want to go down that road, and then somehow that changed. So I think we have equal representation now. I think it's a good process. We got a good list of folks. So I won't be supporting anything that could potentially cause an imbalance. And if we each select somebody, what if 4 of us select somebody from the same neighborhood? Then we've got one neighborhood that is more heavily represented than the other 7. So I can't really support anything that has the possibility of creating imbalance, because every neighborhood deserves equal representation. So that's kind of where I am tonight.
Mr. Santos.
Well, Bob, I think that's what we're trying to do here. If you look at this map here, the folks up in this area of town, the fastest growing area of town, the area that has the most residents, has nobody on there. And I think that's what we're trying to do, according to the map that I have right here. There's no representation up here, and Jim read off the areas that doesn't have representation. And this area up here, you have two folks here, but they're in the county. But my point is, if you look at over Darrell Creek Road, according to this map, there's nobody over here on that part of town, in the northern part of town, that's representing the fastest growing part of our town. And so I'm all for adding somebody. I don't have a problem with going through the planning commission, as GM said. They're the ones that appointed the first ones. Let them vet them. But I think only the folks who have applied from this area here should be looked at first, because they're in this area here. I don't think I'm not so sure we want people from down in this area, voted in when we're trying to get people in this area to be a part of it. That's my whole thing, is to maybe even send it back and let them look at it and try and pick some of the applications in this area to vet them. But this is the area part of town. I think that what Jim is trying to do is give fair representation to everybody in the town. And right now, these folks are not getting fair representation because they have nobody in this area here that's going to be, looking out for their interests.
Gary, I would just disagree with that. I think the methodology for selecting was 8 neighborhoods were created based on equal population. So that neighborhood you're pointing at has similar population to every other neighborhood and has an equal number of representatives on the forum. So they may not be in Park West particularly or Dunes West, but they're in that neighborhood area just like every other area. So there is equal representation among all 8 neighborhoods at this point.
No, you have 2 people that are in the county that are up here only in this whole orange area, which is the most citizens in our town and the fastest growing area. And these folks are in the county, actually. So you don't have any representation of Mount Pleasant citizens in the fastest growing area, in the largest area that we have in Mount Pleasant. Okay. And I think that's what, I'm not putting words in Jim's mouth, but I think that's what Jim's trying to do, is to balance that out by getting some folks in that area up there. They need to be on there. And I agree with that.
Hang on. But the motion does not restrict it to that. That can be an outcome, but that is not a restriction of the motion that is currently on the floor.
And
Right.
neither does a council member have to appoint anyone.
Right. Right.
So just for clarification, Mayor, with Ms. Farrell here, could you verify the methodology that each of these neighborhoods on the map do have equal representation or don't have equal representation in terms of numbers? Because I was under the impression that we had equal numbers from each of the 8 neighborhoods.
No, that's correct. There's approximately 4 people from each of the 8 neighborhoods. And those 8 neighborhoods, of course, aren't a specific neighborhood like Park West, Dunes West, something like that. They're, as you explained, they were geographically mapped out to have about 10,000 people each. And so they ended up with about 4 people.
Which is sort of my concern, Mayor, is that if we get into appointing, that we could end up with a neighborhood or 2 with disproportionate representation, depending on the will of each individual member. That's my main objection.
Mr. Bustos.
My feeling on this is the more people we have involved, the better it'll be. And I don't know of anyone, and just so everyone knows, it's usually my habit not to ask or offer a name on any boards or commissions. I just don't do it. But I do think it's good to have as many people involved as possible, and I don't believe that I know anyone who would walk in and say, I'm Joe Bustos, representative on this board. Right. That's not going to happen. And ultimately, as I said last time, it comes to this council for the final approval. So, adding more people, I mean, we asked people to take surveys, and if we were going to try to game the system, we would just have a lot of people take the survey that agreed with us, and I don't think that's happening. So I'm okay with having more people involved in the process. I don't think they're going to represent us as individuals. I just don't believe that's going to happen. As I said, you could game the system with surveys. So I think having more people involved rather than fewer is better. And I also believe that if we stick with the people that have already been vetted through the Planning Commission process but not selected, so we get a couple more. I just don't think it's a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from members of the public?
Pat Sullivan signed up.
Yep.
Ms. Sullivan?
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Martin, 607 Fisherman's Bend, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. On November 7th, we elected 4 new council and a new mayor. And what I think is that it's your responsibility to appoint. We elected you to make this decision. And that's where I stand. Secondly, I'm going to take the head off just a minute. Mayor Haney resigned as a council member, effective tonight. So your new election is February 13th. Filing will open at December 1st to December 11th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Ms. Sullivan? Is there? That's all.
Pat Sullivan, 1002 Plantation Court. I sent everybody a letter this afternoon. My apologies for it being so late. But in the letter, I basically said that you all asked the Planning Commission to come up with a way to do this, a methodology. The Planning Commission came back and told you all how they wanted to do it, that it would be the Planning Commission to make the decision, that it would be surveys that people voluntarily could fill out. The publicity on this was fabulous. 275 applications came in. Now, on the June 29th Planning Committee meeting, this methodology was presented to the Planning Committee members. And the members were Mr. Brimmer, Bustos, Carrier, Gowich, no, sorry, I'm going the wrong place. Mr. Brimmer, Carrier, Bustos, and Smith. They voted unanimously to keep this the way the Planning Commission said and to keep politics out of it. Then the same thing happened at the July 11th Town Council meeting. They voted unanimously. Brimmer, Bustos, Carrier, Gowich, Owens, Santos, Smith, Haney, and Mayor Page. And there was discussion of, we need to keep politics out of this. It needs to be citizen-driven, not the council making the choices. And as far as size goes, during the council meeting, Mr. Haney asked how many members will be on this form, and Mr. Brimmer answered 20 to 30. So they knew this going in. If you look at the list of the...
It's 2 minutes, if you can wrap up.
Okay, I will. If you look at the list that's broken out by district, all the 8 districts that the town was divided into, it wasn't by neighborhood, Park West, blah, blah. It was geographic and population equalization. If you go down the list and look at how many people from each district, it's 5-4, 5-4, 4-4-3. So to me, that's very good representation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it should go back to planning commission, not y'all, not planning, not council members.
Thank you. No other speakers?
No, sir.
Can I make one comment?
Yes, Mr. O'Rourke.
I don't know how I'll vote because I don't think it matters. And I hate to be that blunt. I've done these. The consultant is going to submit something that they think they can get voted through. I know that we say to keep politics out of it. Well, at the end of the day, if these 9 people up here don't like it, it's not getting passed. So politics are a part of it. But I do believe more representation is great. I wish we could take all the people that applied that didn't get chosen and have 3 focus groups with just them, with a consultant, just to get more input and more input and more input. I think we all want this to be that type of plan. But, so again, I'm sorry for not being real concerned about adding 9 more people or not adding 9 more people, because I don't think it makes a darn bit of difference at the end result at the end of the day. So I don't know why I gave that speech, but it made me feel better.
That was very Seinfeldian.
At least he's honest.
Any more comments from council? We've heard from every member of the public. Anybody want to be recognized? So we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Ms. Barrett, would you call the roll, please?
Can you restate the motion, please?
Yeah, thank you.
Just to make
I
sure.
would have to defer to the clerk because I think I would probably fumble.
This is your motion to add a person.
Yes.
Everybody has one, if you
What-
feel like it.
You want me to restate it?
If you
As
could.
best I can?
Yeah, as best you could, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to allow each council member an opportunity to select a member, an additional member that is pulled from the existing pool that was selected by the Planning Commission as an additional appointee. This is not reflective of each council member. Each council member does not have to select anyone, but it needs to be all-inclusive.
Thank you. And who made the original second? Is that consistent with your second?
Yes, second.
Okay, so we have the motion, we've had discussion. If Mrs. Barrett would please call the roll to vote. Did you have a comment? No? Okay.
If I may, sir?
Yes.
I apologize. Maybe some more details, perhaps submitted to you by when, and so that we can go ahead and get
Can
those individuals up to speed as quickly as possible.
Can I
before-
ask when the next meeting is?
It's December 13th, 5th, December 5th.
December 5th. So what would be, I mean, by this Friday, would this Friday provide you enough time to bring them up to speed?
Sir?
If we can have a copy of those that we're to choose from and, you know, what geographical areas that they're in, that would help us.
Monday? Would Monday be better? How about Monday instead of Friday? It's late
Okay.
Tuesday.
That way you've
And it's
got, you
getting
can get the
later.
graphics.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so are we clear? Yes, Ms. Whitley?
I guess just a comment that if now we're all independently choosing someone and there's no geographic restriction, I mean, I just am concerned that there'll be more imbalance by addition of the 9 than there would be, you know, I guess I'm saying I'm probably not going to nominate anyone, and I would prefer that the motion be amended to limit, you know, maybe submit some names, maybe add 2 people from that region that is completely underrepresented and have that be it. Because I think once you start cherry picking and people pick from their regions, that it's going to be, there's going to be an imbalance.
I don't want to amend the motion, but I would recommend from our newly elected council members and current council member that lives in the northern part of town, that they weigh heavily in that area. And I think by having an open opportunity for anyone, you don't have to represent, you don't have to select anyone. And several council members may not. But I think we need to be all-inclusive, and I think that our members who live in the northern part of town will do a very good job in selecting some representation who live in that area.
So the motion stands as submitted. Are
And
we-
there's
Yeah.
only 8 of us.
That's true. There's only 8 of us. Yeah, nobody gets the empty seat. Nobody gets to speak for that. Thank you. Good point. Now, would you please call the roll on the vote on the motion as previously stated? Thank you.
Mr. Bustos.
Aye.
Mr. Bustos votes yes. Ms. Landing.
Aye.
Ms. Landing votes yes. Mr. O'Rourke.
Aye.
Mr. O'Rourke votes yes. Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Owens votes yes. Mr. Santos.
Aye.
Mr. Santos votes yes. Ms. Whitley.
Nay.
Ms. Whitley votes no. Mr. Brimmer.
No.
Mr. Brimmer votes no. Mayor Haney.
Aye.
Mayor Haney votes yes.
So the motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on, council old business. Item B is final reading of an ordinance to create a master bond ordinance. Mr. Demore?
Yes, sir. As specified at the last meeting and mentioned and deliberated at Finance Committee, this master bond ordinance gives council flexibility to generate and to utilize stormwater revenues wherever they come from in the future. And as it was approved at first reading, we recommend approval of final reading.
Thank you.
Move for final reading.
Second.
Final reading in a second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, who was the first on that?
Mr. Bustos, Mr. Owens? Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? No, sir. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Motion
I'm so sorry, sir.
passes.
Final reading, ordinance number 17057, ordinance to create a master bond ordinance establishing terms and conditions and other matters relating thereto prior to the issuance and sale of any stormwater utility system revenue bonds of the town of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
Thank you.
Mr.
Item-
Mayor, if I may,
There we are.
make one comment.
Yes.
I don't know if this was your doing or not, but I just want to say, if it was, I appreciate you rotating the voting order at this time. So everybody gets a chance to either be the first or the last vote. So I appreciate that. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
you will not be batting lead up.
Every time.
Lead off every time. Next is item C, executive session. These are personnel issues as printed in the agenda. Appointment to Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, appointment to the Planning Commission, appointments to the Construction Board of Adjustments, and post-executive session, council may take action on any items listed on an executive session agenda or discussed in an executive session during a properly noticed meeting. Is there a motion that we move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion is approved. We are in executive session.
There you go.
Women on the board.
Glad to be here.
Yes, it has.
Oh, we have to go back there?
This
that
is
what we
good
do?
stuff.
Oh, boy.
Fun.
You want to see Mr. Santos's candy? Yeah, she's in.
Uh-oh, I'm gonna need more water before I go. Okay. Oh, yay, okay then. I don't know what it means to go into executive session, do I? Oh, better turn this off.
He's sitting there texting me. He goes, yeah. He said, yeah, the golf cart tried to run over me. And I said, well, go to the window. I said, you want to see a police officer? We'll just go, where's the track? I said, let's go to the window records window. There's somebody. Go to the records window. They tell it, they call it. All right, council has reconvened from executive session, including Councilman Owens. Yes, sir. We are reconvened. No action was taken during executive session. We do have some follow-up items. Are there any nominations or any motions for action?
Yes, on Personnel, A, appointment to Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee. I would like to nominate Ms. Lori Bickler, who currently holds the seat, number 7, is eligible and does seek reappointment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The motion passes. Any other nominations?
I move on item CC, I move to appoint Jim V. Jones to seat number 4 on the Construction Board of Adjustments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. The motion passes, and we have an appointment to the Construction Board of Adjustments. Is there any other business before this council before we adjourn our first meeting? And I just want to say it has been a privilege to not only be sworn in with y'all, but to work with y'all, and I am really looking forward to this, and I sense some real teamwork among this group. Anything for the good of the council? Were you going to?
No, I'm
You're just
excited to
looking
make
at
my
me
first motion.
expectantly to get home.
I'm excited to make my first motion.
To
adjourn.
To adjourn. We stand adjourned.
Good meeting, sir.
Thank you.